Hello, everybody. Welcome to the 6th episode of Burrito Podcast.
Burrito Podcast, what's up?
Today we are talking about nature and our relationship with it. The outdoors, how it relates to us, how we relate to it, how it affects us, how we affect it.
All things to do with relationships. Our relationship with nature, the outdoors, what we think about it, what it does for us, what we can gain from it, what we can give to it, all that kind of deal. It's going to be good.
All that jazz.
All the jazz.
To me, I think I wrote kind of like a blog post about this one day, just talking about our relationship with it, because I've discovered that every time I go out into nature, I always feel refreshed, even if it's like a brutal day. Like if it's a brutal day out in nature and I come back home, I feel great. Mm-hmm. Whereas if I have like a brutal day at work, I don't always feel that great. You know, I don't necessarily come back home and think, oh man, remember that time that I did this at work and it was horrible?
Right.
I don't always do that, but I do it all the time with nature. And I find nature teaches me things and I get a lot of life experience from it. And I don't usually get a lot of that in the same way from other places.
It's easy to go on autopilot with your everyday life. And I feel like those occasional ventures out into the wilderness, doing something wild, reminds you that, life's not all a game. Life's not all just the autopilot. You can just go through it and do your daily routine. It's a break in the habit. And it's something that I think just what breaks in the habit do is they center you. You know? And I think there's something centering about being out in the wilderness, being out in the wild. And I think people have always thought that, you can't go out there and think that there's something not spiritual about it. Like, there's something deeper that you experience when you go out in the wilderness alone or with someone you love. And stay out there for a bit, You're going to remember it. You're going to find something. You're going to think unique thoughts. It's a break in the habit. It's a break from the routine. There's something special about that.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think something that was really great for me was, whenever Katie and I were out in Yosemite, we grew way more out there than we ever did anywhere else. We back home, we had great friends. We had teachers. We had premarital therapists. We had professors. I mean, we had a bunch of resources that could help us out with our lives and with our marriages, and they did a good job. But for some reason, whenever we got out to Yosemite, it all just went through the roof. Like, our help just skyrocketed. And I don't know.
Why do you think that is?
Well, I think a part of it is just I think the challenge that nature can bring. But whereas with other things, you have other things that challenge you, but I don't know, they don't really seem to give a lot back to you in some ways. Yeah. They give back to you into a job. It gives back to you in terms of giving you money, providing a house for you and whatnot. But going out on a hike or going rock climbing, it's fun, I guess. It gives you joy, it gives you life. You're not necessarily even paying a bunch of money for it to give you fun. You're just going out into it. If you just go on a walk through a park, sometimes Katie and I get bogged down inside the house, and we just go on a walk throughout the park, and we feel amazing afterwards. Right. And we're able to talk to each other. Almost every time we go on a hike, we have some really deep conversation about something. Right. And so, I don't know, when we've gone canoeing or kayaking, I always know, when we get out into the water and get paddling for a little bit, some really deep conversation is going to happen between us.
It's a perspective shifter. Yeah. That's what getting out in the woods does for people. It's a perspective shifter. It's a break in your routine, your daily habit. You're getting outside of your small world and seeing the world's a lot bigger than it actually is. There's something to be said about that. You have deeper conversations when you're out there. Why? Because your perspective shifts. You're not so focused on the little things anymore, or what you have to do, or the worries and anxieties, that are constantly around you in your everyday life and your urban environment. But now you're in something that's, actually physically larger. You're in a vast expanse. You're in a big open area, probably, But you're also, you're not just physically in a big space, but it's you're also mentally in a space. Mm-hmm. You're in a mental space where you're freer to think clearly and think about things that matter. Think about things that aren't day to day. Think about something that might be eternal. think about something that's deep in you, and you have those deep conversations. So I think that the wilderness doesn't just give us like a physical space to wander in, but it also gives us like a mental space to wander in. So that while you're wandering physically, you can wander mentally. There's something special about that.
Yeah, I think for sure. Because, I mean, you just see the same thing happen to so many people. Even if someone gets out into the nature and they hate it.
Yeah.
Like, something deep and emotional is going to come out of them anyways. Like, they're going to talk about why they hate it. They're going to talk about maybe some insecurities that they have. Maybe they're going to end up talking about just, like, how much they hate life in general.
Maybe it exposed some sort of weakness, or it exposed some sort of vulnerability or some sort of thing that they didn't want to think about.
Right.
I've seen that happen for sure.
Yeah, and that happens to me all the time.
Yeah.
Like, I remember we went on a hike, and we were hiking with these other two guys, and this one dude just was flying past us. Just super fast. And Katie and I are just like, are we this weak? Like, are we this out of shape that this dude's just flying up this thing? Now, like, we had 2 backpacks on and he didn't have a backpack on.
Yeah, it's pretty big difference.
So maybe that was a difference.
Yeah.
But, I mean, yeah, he was just flying up it and we're just saying to ourselves, like, what are we doing? Like, why are we out here? And then you just start to realize, like, oh no, like, he was hiking up with just like a bottle of water or something, but we've got water, we've got snacks, we've got like other things to help us out with the hike. And that's when you start to realize, like, yeah, like, it's okay. I don't know.
There's something to be said, like, said you feel closer to Katie when you come back from a trip like that,
Yeah.
And I think that there is, like, physical adversity, in the wilderness. You're going to overcome some physical challenges, right? And personally, I think that nothing brings people together like a physical challenge and adversity that you all have to work as a team to overcome. So whether that's, a however long mile hike that you have to do together and you have to talk to each other to get each other through it,
Right.
Or, that breeds good conversation, and then when you're done, you both have accomplished something and now you're the closer for it. Overcoming challenges together, I think, is really important, and not just in, like, a romantic relationship like our wives, but also in, like, a group setting too. When you go on a week-long backpacking trip with the group, you feel very close to those people by the end because you're living with them for a week, and you're also overcoming challenges with them for a week. And even if you go on a day hike with somebody, you'll get to know them better than if you sit down, for dinner or something.
Right.
You'll get to know them better because you're overcoming something together, and you're giving you, again, that mental space to open up.
Yeah, you're almost in a way, like, immediately getting rid of the formality of everything.
Yeah.
Like, all the stuff that's in between of getting to know you.
The red tape.
Yeah, the red tape. Like, all these things kind of just go away.
It has no place in the woods, right?
Yeah, once you get out there. Because depending on what you're doing, like, if you just go on, like, on a day hike with some couple that you've never met before, or some people you've never met before, like, that's going to be kind of easy to just not talk about some things.
Right.
But you are just, like, there with them. Like, that's all you're doing is just walking next to each other.
Yeah.
So, like, you're bound to, like, you almost in your head realize, okay, I'm going to have to talk about something. And maybe you're going to be annoyed and not talk about anything, but you're going to talk about something.
Right.
And then, once you expand that to multiple days, then you're definitely talking about stuff.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, you have to. And I just feel like it's a space that's unique.
Right.
It's a space that breeds unique conversation. And it's a space that I think is very conducive to conversation.
Yeah.
Because you don't have the red tape of life. You don't have the formalities to go through. You don't have any of that. You are completely free and open to talk about what you need to talk about, and you have a space to do it. You have designated time to do it. And that's why I think that, especially with the business, that, like, it's important to get the kids, to get the students outside in regards to personal growth, because we don't have designated time or spaces for personal growth in everyday life. We think we kind of do, but we don't really have formal designated times where we're going to work on ourselves.
Right.
Usually, unless it's like a time where you exercise, but that's not really working on you as an individual, as a character, but I feel like giving students a actual designated space where they're going to work on who they are, that's important. And I think the outdoors is the best place to do it.
Yeah. Well, and I think what's great about the outdoors is that it gives you the tools for going back into everyday life. Because, like, you might not be able to go out every single week especially if you live like in a city area.
Yeah.
You might not be able to go out every single week to the woods to go on a big hike with somebody or even just by yourself. You might even be scared to just go off there and do it by yourself.
Right.
You know, you might even feel scared just going to your park and walking around by yourself, especially if you're a woman or something.
Yeah.
So yeah, you can't just do that all the time, but I think having that kind of detox from life just for a couple days or a week, or even just a few hours, I think can kind of help give you that realization that, like, oh, I do need to take more time for myself. I do need to take more time to develop and to grow more. Yeah. You know, if you go out there with people, you're gonna argue with people. You know, even if you go out with yourself, you're gonna get mad at like the ground because you tripped over something. You know, like when you go out there, you're more likely gonna get mad at something or someone, but that's just peeling back the layers of, you know, rust that you've had on you. That's peeling back the layers of the calluses that maybe you and your best friend that you're hiking with, or you and your husband, you know, have had.
Yeah, and you know, not everything that's hard is worth doing, but almost everything that's worth doing is hard.
Yeah.
You know? And so if you're just gonna, like, going back to our first episode, if you're just gonna spend your whole life in the green,
right,
doing what's comfortable, okay, you'll be comfortable, but you're not gonna be fulfilled. Yeah. You know, you're gonna end up very lacking in something, and you're not quite sure what it is. And I would argue, like you said, you know, like, people might be afraid to go out into the woods by themselves, and you know, that's fair. Like, you should be. There's an element of risk. There's always an element of risk, you know, when you're going out into the wilderness. That's why it's called the wilderness. It's wild. Right? But I would argue that if you're well equipped, you know, and you've been trained and you're somewhat experienced, that the risk is actually part of the growth. That there should be an element of risk, you know, in a trip that you take, you know, or an experience that you go on. Because if something is too comfortable, you're not challenging yourself. And, you know, the fact that, like, for me, when I'm out on a trip, you know, and I'm doing a backpacking trip or even a day hike, the feeling that I have to be totally self-reliant is almost freeing for me. You know, because if something goes wrong out there, nobody's going to get me out of the situation but me. Yeah. And that element of risk in itself is a challenge for me to overcome, you know, and that's freeing to me to know that, you know, this is something somewhat dangerous that I'm doing, but I think that I can handle it. Mm-hmm. That's a freeing feeling. I think that more people should seek to feel like that. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I don't know. There's so many times too where you just get like cooped up. Yeah. And you do need that. Yeah. Do you need that feeling? Or you just... Yeah. I don't even know. I'm just listening to your talk and I'm just like... Yeah, I can't even process it.
Yeah, no, that's good. That's good. And yeah, the cooped up feeling, like, you know, you got to have that break in routine. You got to get that change of perspective. You got to have that thing that's just going to give you the nudge you need to think the thoughts you need to think to really improve yourself the way that you know you need to be improved. But what we learn out there, we have to take back. You know, it can't stay out there on the trail. What you learn, you have to take back. So if you do something out there with an element of risk and you come back feeling courageous, you're like, wow, I worked on my courage this weekend. You know, I hiked this steep trail by myself. Yeah. I never would have done that a few years ago, but I did it today. I feel courageous. Okay, that's great. What are you going to do about it now? You know, take it back into everyday life. Well, now, you know, how are you going to be courageous as a habit? You did the action. You walked the trail. You cultivated the feeling. Now, how are you going to continue the success back at home? You know, what habits are you going to form that are courageous habits? You know, are you going to take a risk at work you wouldn't usually take? Are you going to initiate conversation with somebody you wouldn't normally do? What are the small courageous acts you're going to continue to do, you know, to cultivate that? If you're trying to be a more courageous person, you know, or if you went out there and you went out there to find out something about yourself and you meditated out there and you thought and you had a deep conversation with yourself. When you come back, what are you going to do to foster that? You know, are you going to set aside time to meditate during the week now and think? Are you going to go on regular walks? You know, or what you found out about yourself? Are you going to put that into practice now? You know, if you found out, wow, you know, I need to be more honest with myself about this. How are you going to do that? You know, so I think that it's not just important to go, but it's important to bring back. Yeah. You know, bring back what the wilderness is going to give you.
Yeah, I've had so many times where I go out and I'm like, oh man, when I get home,
yeah,
when I get back to my life, I'm gonna do this, and then you maybe like do it for a little bit, and then you kind of fall out of it,
yep,
or you just don't realize like the things that you really did want to do it with. You know, sometimes it's easy to be a leader out in the wilderness because you can see it. It's like, here's a group of people.
Yeah.
I'm gonna like walk in front of them, or I'm gonna like show them on the map, and maybe you have those skills to do that out in the wilderness. Maybe that's like your space. Like you grew up being a leader out in the wilderness.
It's your element.
It's your element, but then you get back to your work, or you get back to your family back home, or you get back to these people, and maybe someone else is a leader, but they're like a bad leader.
Right.
And you don't know how to be a leader in this scenario anymore.
Because you're out of your element.
Because you're out of your element. It's just like, yeah, okay. Like, you loved being a leader out in the wilderness.
Right.
Because you felt competent, you felt comfortable, you felt like people just like, it was kind of like moving to a new school. You know, you like recreated your identity in front of all these other people.
Right.
It's just like, you know, sometimes people are like, he's gonna be a leader? Like Jeff from accounting?
Right.
Like, no, he's not. But you can.
It's baby steps.
Yeah.
You know, because if you're working in your element, something you're super good at, and you go to a completely foreign element, you can't expect to have the same level of competence there or have things be the same. You know, it's baby steps. You gotta start small. How can you be a leader? You know, right now in this single activity you're doing, and then, you know, it spreads from there. And, you know, being a leader doesn't necessarily mean being a person in charge.
Right.
You know, it means being a person of character that's setting a good example and encouraging others to do the same. It's giving vision to a group, right? So, you know, if you're at work and people aren't doing what they're supposed to do, how can you give everybody vision to do what they're supposed to do? You know, something like that. But baby steps, I think, is key, especially when you're working in an environment you're not totally comfortable in. And I like what you said, too, about when you come back, things can be different. And you're like, oh, I know, I'm going to do this. You know, I came back from my trip and I learned this and I'm going to do it. And you get back. But man, comfortableness is such a trap.
Oh, yeah.
Like, comforts are great, but man, they can, like, enslave you. Like, they can trap you. Because you can come back wanting to improve yourself in a certain way, but something's comfortable and you'll choose what's comfortable almost every time.
Oh, yeah.
You know, so it's like you have to train yourself to choose what's better over what's comfortable.
Yeah.
And that's so hard. Like, it's so hard to not fall into the comfort trap of, you know I need to make myself get up early so that I can run, right? Because I want to increase my endurance. But I want to sleep, you know? It's like, it's comfortable. And I know that's like an obvious physical example, but there's so many other examples. Like,
well, and I think that so, like, something you notice when you go out on a backpacking trip is you don't need to eat as much as you think you need to eat.
Right.
You know, like, we eat so much just sitting day to day at home, not doing anything, like, almost the entire time we sit on our butts, but yet we get hungry and we think we need all of this food to give us energy just to make it 4 more hours or so to the next meal to, like, fill us up again.
Yeah.
But we don't need all of that food. And in the same way, I wonder how little rest we sometimes actually need. But instead, how much productivity we need.
Yeah.
You know, like, Katie, she sometimes wonders, like, I feel like I'm getting tons of rest, but I'm always tired. I'm always exhausted, but I take naps. Like, I sleep from 7 to 8 hours a night.
Yeah.
She's like, but I feel exhausted. And I think something that she sometimes wonders is, well, maybe I'm not being, like, as productive. You know, not in the sense of, like, getting all of her homework done or something, but doing things that are actually productive for her life.
Right.
In so many ways. So that's, like, reading a book instead of taking a nap. Like, at the end she's wondered at the end of the day, would she feel better if she had read a book instead of taking a nap?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Like a book she wanted to catch up on. For me, it's just like, oh yeah, I want to rest by watching a show on Netflix for like 30 minutes to an hour.
Right.
But would I have felt more rested doing that or going outside and messing with some of the wood scraps I have in my shed?
Yeah.
You know, to like slowly build something.
Yeah.
It's like, which one would I have rather done, you know?
Yeah, I guess you got to experiment with that. Feel like what your body and mind like best. But there is something to be said, like, about getting, you know, exercise for your body and your mind. Maybe reading a book instead of taking a nap can make you feel more rested. You know, because you gotta exercise everything. I like that. No, yeah, that's good. It's hard. It's hard to, you know, commit to doing things, especially when you're already so comfortable doing something else. It's hard.
Yeah. Well, and to your point of working out, it's like a lot of times people will say that, I don't think it's just a people say thing, I think it's like a study thing, that people do feel better whenever they exercise, even though they don't have a lot of time to do things.
Yeah, it gives you more energy.
Yeah, you do get more energy. It's like, oh man, I gotta wake up at 7 o'clock to go to work. I'm gonna be there for 8 hours. Then I gotta come home, feed the kids, put them back. And it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, it sucks for sure.
Yeah.
Having to wake up early, even just to get like a 30-minute workout, even to get like an intense 10-minute workout.
Well, see, that's like that's the definition of discipline.
Yeah.
You have to force yourself to do something you might not want to do because you know it's what's best for you.
Right.
If you're only doing things that you like to do all the time, you're doing it wrong.
Yeah.
You know? Like if you're comfortable all the time and you're only doing things that you want to do all the time, well, you're probably not living a super healthy lifestyle.
Yeah. Well, in the things that make you feel good about yourself, when you do those disciplined things, they don't come instantly.
Right.
They come like 3 months later when you look back and realize how much progress you've made.
Yeah.
Or a year later, and then you see all that progress and you go, man, that sucked doing it.
It's not instantly gratifying.
But I want to keep doing it because now I can see all the progress it made.
Yeah.
Whereas, if I just sit on the couch and eat a Hershey's bar, I'm instantly going to feel good.
Right,
yeah. Dipping my cookies in that milk, while watching Netflix, that's instantly going to be awesome.
Right, yeah.
And
I'm not saying you can't do the things that make you comfortable, but you gotta do something that sucks every day. Honestly, I really do think that. I try to make myself do one thing that I think sucks every day.
Yeah.
Whether that's run, or exercise, or do work that I've been putting off, because I've never ever regretted it.
Yeah.
Once I do that thing that sucks, I'm like, wow, I'm really glad I did that.
Yeah.
But I've always regretted not doing it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Anytime candy and food like that is like my thing.
Yeah.
Where I know it's like, I look at something and I go, Nick, if you eat that cookie, you're gonna enjoy it in that moment, but you might regret it later. Whereas if you don't eat it, you're not gonna regret having not ate it. Because in a day, you're not going to still have that feeling of that cookie inside your mouth
right.
and in your stomach. It's going to be long gone.
Right.
But the memory of the discipline you put in to not eat it, that's going to stick with you.
That stays.
Yeah. And then, in a week, you have, your cheat day or something. I don't know if you do a cheat day. It's this is like The Rock. He always does, a cheat meal or something. One day, it was, a humongous plate of cookies.
Yeah.
And you're just like, oh my gosh, that is crazy.
Yes.
If that's a cheat meal, I want to be as big as he is. That type of stuff is a reward, and it makes you feel good. You see your progress, and you still get to do some of those things.
I just pulled up some pictures of The Rock's cheat meals. Oh my gosh.
Dude, it's insane.
1,500 calorie cheat meal. That's pretty great. No, I read that wrong. He eats 15,000 calories every day.
That's insane.
Yeah, at least that's what this website says. I don't know if that's a ton. That's a lot.
He's a huge guy.
Yeah. Anyway, that was off topic, but
yeah, I mean, if you want to eat a lot of food, just be The Rock.
Just be The Rock. Come on, guys.
Yeah. People say man, I got eating problem. I just eat too much. It's like, well, there's a way.
Yeah. Just be The Rock. Wow, thanks. I'm cured.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, not to say that any of this is easy. I'm not trying to say just to be disciplined. I'm fully acknowledging that it is way, way hard to be disciplined, But I'm trying to make the argument that it's so good for you to deny yourself things that are comfortable sometimes, And I think that the outdoors will help people with that. Mm-hmm. The outdoors helps people to be more disciplined because it's denying you of the things that you usually get that make you comfortable. Yeah. And it also is a perspective lifter, which helps you be more disciplined.
Right.
And it also, is a break from habit so that you can break some habits that you might have. All those things contribute to helping you be a better you.
Yeah. I think it was Jordan Peterson who said one of the greatest discovery that kind of separates us by far from animals is the idea of sacrifice. There are animals that will sacrifice themselves, or they might sacrifice a little bit of food so that some of the cubs or some of the younger ones can have stuff, but typically the leader of the pack gets as much as they want and then they leave the rest. or they'll like save themselves, yada yada yada. But humans have it's such a, like, if you believe in evolution and all that, like, it totally goes against the idea of natural selection.
Right.
Like, it totally goes against our biological nature to sacrifice things, to sacrifice food.
And then we see it as virtuous to sacrifice things.
Yeah.
Too. Yeah.
You know, we see it as that, to the point where all of a sudden you start to realize, like, oh, like, my biology wants me to consume as much food as possible.
Right.
Like, it thinks that it's a starving, person living out in the desert, who needs sustenance, who needs food all the time. And so when you go to Panera and you see the bread and you see the, carbs, all that stuff, it's like, yes, give it to me now, as much as you can. And you can eat so much of it. I can eat like a huge meal, and then off to the side there's like a piece of bread with some butter. And I'm just like, yeah, or that cookie, like, your body will just take it all in.
Right.
But yeah, if you sacrifice a little bit and realize, oh no, I don't need that, like, it makes your body so much better. Like, you have all these gains. If I am in a fight with my wife, instead of trying to prove her right by being selfish and lie, I just sacrifice and say, you know what? Yeah, like, I was an idiot. I lied. Like, this is the thing. Like, this is what I did wrong. Like, there's so much to sacrificing that the outdoors can teach you.
Absolutely, yeah. And, it brings out the best in people, or it can bring out the worst in people. It brings out a truthness, it makes you be honest, because, I've been on a lot of trips where people reveal their true selves because they're under stress of not having the comforts around them. They're, in a group where you have to try and work together, and also you're living together, so you're going to see their true face. And so, it brings out the real you, especially if you're on a trip with other people. It's going to bring out the real you, and for better or worse. But I think always for better, because I'm on the side of truth, always, even if that truth is ugly. Yeah. Because at least that gives you a starting point to do something better about it, If you're really truthful for yourself and like, wow, I acted like an idiot that trip I was on with a bunch of people, I probably need to change something. Wow, good for you. That's so, like, that, for me, that's more courageous than the guy who has everything going for him, and just is improving a little bit. Yeah. I think that is a very powerful thing the outdoors does for us.
Well, and along the lines of truth, like, something that it can do, just being in that high stress environment, you don't have a lot of error or room for error.
Right.
So if you're not telling the truth about something and you're worried about people finding out, it's going to come up.
Right.
Like, something's going to, if you forgot to poop shovel, and you're just hoping that no one else has to poop for the next 3 days.
Got some bad news for you.
Yeah, it's going to happen.
Right.
And you can be like, oh no, what happened? And then someone's like, dude, I remember tying it very well to, like, or clipping it on.
Yeah.
And it's going to be one of those things where it's going to catch up to you.
Right.
And then they're going to be like, dude, why didn't you just say something?
Yeah.
And we could have just walked back real quick and got it.
Yeah.
Like, all these different types of things, or oh man, I forgot to pack this, or I forgot to get this, or I didn't bring this heavy coat, and now we're going to be in like 20-degree weather.
Right.
It's just like, just say it.
Just say it.
Like, have the humility, say it.
Yeah.
And things will be okay.
Yeah, or if you need a break, if you're about to pass out, you're like, oh, I don't want to seem weak, I gotta keep going, and then you roll your ankle, or you actually pass out. Now the whole group has to stop because of you. It's like, be honest.
Or if you're afraid of something, and so you keep acting like you're hurt, or you keep acting like something.
Right.
It's just like, that's just as bad.
Yeah, it's always beneficial to be honest with yourself, and I think the outdoors gives you more opportunity to do that than regular life usually does, because it's easy to hide things in regular life. Just look at Instagram,
Right. Yeah.
But when you're outdoors in a group of people, you can't hide anything. You're you.
I can hide the occasional, like, bad grade from my wife.
Right. On
some of my papers. If I have a bad grade, I can just not tell her and just tell myself, okay, you got to do good on the rest of these. Right. But yeah, like, if we're rock climbing and I have a bad piece of equipment, it's not one of those things where I can just lie about it and say, oh, maybe the other ones will be good.
Right.
I'll just put these other ones in really well and hope that one will happen with that one. It's like, you can't do that. No, that's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's true. Brings out some honesty. The outdoors is so great. It's such a great tool for self-improvement, for character building. I'm like really glad that we're getting into this. So yeah.
Yeah, man.
Because again, like I know I've been talking about it a lot. I'm not saying that being comfortable is bad, but being comfortable gives you the opportunity to not improve. You know, and a lot of us, me included, take that opportunity to stay the same.
Yeah.
And it's easy, but it's not what's best. And going outside breaks the habit to help you do what's best. Gives you perspective so that you can plan to do what's best. And, you know, reveals the truth so that you know how to do what's best, you know?
Yeah. Comfort is sometimes, I think, it's only good if you're aware of the comfort.
Okay, so, like, that's a great point. Yeah,
there are some people who are born rich. You know, maybe they're born trust fund kids. And they may not recognize the amount of comfort that they have and the hard work that was put in to get them to have that lifestyle.
Right.
You know, but the parents probably really recognize it, or the great-grandparents recognize it, the hard work that it took to get there. And if you recognize the comfort level that you have and the hard work it took to get there, that should make you realize how much more you want to keep it.
Yeah.
And how hard you got to go. Like, I was listening to Kevin Hart talk about that on Joe Rogan's podcast.
That was a good one. That was a good episode.
Oh, it was great.
Yeah.
And that's like all you're talking about. He was like, dude, I'm not stopping.
Right.
He's like, I'm not content. He's like, because the moment I get too content, the moment I start being like, oh yeah, I am the big shot.
Right.
Or, oh yeah, I am this, I am that. People should do this for me or that for me. He's like, that's when it all goes downhill, and that's when you lose everything. And he's like, and I'm not just doing this for me to be comfortable. I'm doing this for my kids and my kids' kids to be comfortable. And to the point where he doesn't want his kids, because his kids don't realize the level of comfort they have in as much as he does. So what he does is he takes his kids to the places that he grew up. Yeah. And he helps them see, like, this is where Dad grew up. This is where I had to struggle. This is where I had to live with your grandma, you know, in order to get by. And this is where you are now. So, like, don't be thinking that all the kids in the world have it like this. Yeah.
You know, that's so great. That's like Kevin Hart really realizes he's doing it or not. He's doing an experiential education practice with his kids. By making them experience something that might be hard to see or hard to do, they are learning through that experience. You know, that's what it's all about. I feel like that's the best way to learn. Experiential ed, putting something into practice. And, you know, that's what we want to do. And I like what you said about entitlement. You know, like, comfort's only bad if you don't understand, you know, if you don't realize that it's a privilege, that it's good to be comfortable, you know. And, like, the enemy, that's entitlement. Nobody likes entitlement, right?
Yeah.
But the enemy of entitlement is gratitude. And I think if you foster, you know, a heart full of gratitude, a heart of thankfulness, then you're going to be able to really combat that entitlement, the comfort. Because, like, you got to say, like, oh, man, I'm thankful for hot showers. Oh, man, I'm thankful for the job I have, even if it's meager. I'm thankful for the friends I have. I'm thankful for the house that's over my head. Thankful for grocery stores, you know?
Yeah.
It's like, when you're thankful for the things that you have, it's almost impossible to be entitled.
Yeah. Well, I'm in this cultural diversity class. It's like cross-cultural counseling. And I'm reading these stories, story after story after story of people who are in these horrible conditions growing up in life. Like, one person, when he was like 7 years old, maybe, his mom and dad sent him to America by himself. And he got put in the foster system just for his parents to have him escape the brutal, you know, disaster that was going on in their country.
Yeah. And
he had to grow up like that, you know, and luckily he became successful. He had, like, middle-class parents.
Right.
He was able to help him out, and he grew into his identity of, you know, being from another country. And,
wow, good.
You know, and, like, he got lucky like that. And then there are some people who aren't so lucky. There's some people who are just in their country and they're beaten down, or they're here and they're poor.
Right.
There are people who are just, like, totally oppressed, and, like, just their lives are horrible for it. And I had this, as I'm typing out my summary for these chapters that I read, I'm writing to my professor and I'm saying, you know, it pains me to say this, but I'm lucky to have been born a white guy in America with parents who did well for themselves.
Right.
You know, and did well for me and my brothers. It's like, it sucks to have to realize that that's a privilege that I have in this world.
Right.
You know, but just the fact that I was born in America instantly gave me, you know, comfort. The fact of, like, being white.
It's the greatest country in the world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, not all white people have it good.
No.
But the white people I grew up around with, you know,
had
like,
it good.
we had it, like, pretty
right.
all right. We just had a great support system around us to help us. Even though my mom, like, was in government housing, even though, like, we did have food stamps growing up, like, we had such a great community around us of people, which doesn't always happen, like, in an inner city or something.
Right.
You know, and so I had to say that to him. I was like, man, it sucks to say this, but I am lucky for it. And now that I realize it, I want to do everything I can with it. Because there's totally some kid who's starving in some other country or here in America, maybe even in this town, whose parent, maybe they wouldn't do it because they want to be with their parents.
Right.
But that kid's mom or dad would instantly trade that kid's life with mine, you know, to give that kid a better chance.
Oh, absolutely.
You know?
And it's not just, like, people in America. I mean, it's
no.
like, literally, there's always going to be somebody that has it worse than you.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, like, there's always somebody that's going to have it worse than you. So even if you think that your hand that you've been dealt is pretty bad, man, there's always somebody that has it worse than you. You got to be thankful for what you have anyway. I like that. Realizing your privilege. Now, just because you were born privileged doesn't mean you have to be ashamed of that privilege.
Of course
and,
not.
like, I think that there's a culture nowadays where it's like people are shaming other people for having been born into wealth or whatever, you know. And I think that's wrong too.
Yeah.
Like,
exactly.
I mean, it's you. What you want, I think the sweet spot is you want to know that you're privileged. You want to know, okay, wow, I have it pretty great. And you want to foster the gratitude we were talking about. I'm so glad that my life is this way, you know. But I'm not ashamed of it being this way, you know.
Right.
I'm thankful. I have the appropriate thankfulness that it's being this way. And now, what can I do to improve myself?
Right.
You know, and what can I do to be a better person and give back?
Right.
You know, everything that I've been given, I'm thankful for so much I've been given. Now, what can I do to give back?
Yeah.
You know.
Well, you know, for me, it's like I definitely don't feel guilty.
Right.
For my level of comfort that I was given, but I also know that, like, I think I have somewhat of a responsibility with it.
Yeah.
I think I can see outside of myself to do something with it. And, you know, if there's someone out there who was raised, like, say, like, they're raised, as, like, that trust fund kid. Maybe their parents programmed them to think that, like, oh, all these poor people did it to themselves.
That's true.
You know, they need to pull themselves up by their bootstraps.
Yeah, they might have been taught to think that.
Yeah, and that kid might grow up their whole life thinking that and never want to use their comfort or their privilege or whatever you want to call it to help those people. And I can't fully blame that person because that's just how they were raised.
Somewhat victimized as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can only hope that one day that they're able to have that experience for themselves of seeing their level of comfort and how much they can do, like Bill Gates being able to do all this charity work for people.
Yeah.
But then you got some other guy only donating like 0.0000003% to like a charity.
Right.
You know, just to be able to say he did it.
Tax write-off.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And so it's one of those things where you hope that people can recognize the level of comfort they have to give it back, but...
You know what experiences would help those kinds of people and what space would help those kinds of people to understand their privilege? Being outside.
Yeah.
Yeah. Going to the wilderness.
Exactly.
Getting all the stuff that they usually take for granted taken away. Levels the playing field. There is no one that's going to take care of you out there but you.
Yeah.
It makes you realize that what you have and what you're made of.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And you know, you can have the nice new Patagonia shirt.
Sure.
You can have the nice Chacos. You can have...
everything.
You can have all these cool things and gear to prepare you for out there. But if you've never been outdoors, like, the outdoors could care less what you're wearing.
Yeah.
You know? Like,
yeah,
it doesn't
exactly.
care.
It doesn't care. It's going to rain regardless.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if you, like, that person who's, like, super broke and poor and just has, like, raggedy Goodwill clothes on, they may know how to make, like, the perfect tent.
Right.
You know, the perfect tent, the exact location, how to make a fire, and you know nothing. And now they're more privileged than you are. Like, they're more comfortable.
There it is. Yeah.
And, you know, now maybe they have the duty to show you, but, like, it totally levels it out and puts you in a totally different pecking order.
It does. And not only, like, on a skill, like, you know, standard, but also on, like we talked about, the transparency, the honesty that comes forth. Like, now you're not just on the same level, it doesn't just level the playing field physically, like you're in the same physical space in the same harsh environment, but it also levels the playing field character-wise.
Yeah.
You know, because now it's like, who's really, you know, honest? Who's really a good leader? Who's really a good team worker? Who really is able to work hard? Well, all that's going to get revealed, you know, as you progress on your trip together.
Yeah.
So that kind of levels the playing field too, because now it doesn't matter what assumptions you had about a person going into it. You know, the truth is going to come out here in a second. Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I would almost say, over in Europe, there's a big growing field of giving people the outdoors as medicine. You know, if someone's struggling with like depression or just struggling with just like, just being really sad or being this, that, or the other, they'll be able to tell them like, well, you know what, instead of like writing you this pill or giving you this prescription, like I want you to go on a walk like once a week. I want you to do this. I want you to do that. I want you to just stare at a tree or something. Like, I don't know. And that's starting to grow over there. And I think there's even places here in America where they're starting to do that a lot.
Slowing down the pressures of life and prescribing, fostering good habits instead of prescribing pills. Yeah. You know, something like that.
Yeah. I mean, I wish so badly that people with like, who are struggling with diabetes or struggling with all these health risks, like heart disease, like all these things. Yeah. I wish so badly, instead of just getting prescriptions of pills, they could also get a life coach. Yeah. They could get like a trainer. Like their insurance could cover that for them.
Which we could inject good habits into people.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like you want that so badly. And some people, like, they just turn to liposuction. And, you know, maybe some people desperately need that.
Maybe they need that.
Maybe they desperately need it, but then there's some
there's some people who don't.
Yeah, there's some people who that's all they could, like, think to do. And if your insurance could cover some people like us to take you out into the woods, that would be amazing.
Yeah, we would do that.
We totally would do that. Yeah, man.
That's what we want to do, is help people through the wilderness. You know, no judgment. Let's do it. Yeah. That's what we want to do. Those are all kinds of things that the wilderness can do for you. And like that's the wilderness's relationship with us. Like what it can do for us and how it helps us. But let's talk about now, like, let's say that the wilderness has done a lot for us. Right. Right? Well, relationships are a two-way street. Like, what do we do? How can we give back? You know, it was Earth Day. It's Earth Week. Yeah. What can we do to give back to the wilderness and ensure that it stays a safe place to wander, both mentally and physically, and a space to grow, both mentally and physically, and spiritually and emotionally, and in every other space that you have, you know?
Yeah, I think it's all about taking those small steps forward. Yeah. I think some people, they get into the guilt trip of, oh my gosh, like, plastic is destroying our planet, but I'm like throwing this away all the time. Right. Or my trash bags aren't biodegradable. Or like, oh no, like what am I doing? And you'll look up on YouTube, like, how can I have zero waste? And you'll see these people who go zero waste for a day. Yeah. And they end up with just like a jar of like some trash. Yep. And it's like, that's really not like realistic for a lot of people. Right. Like maybe that girl like living by herself in her studio apartment, like maybe that's realistic for her. It could even be realistic for a family, but not instantly.
It's a major life change shouldn't happen overnight. Right. You know, a huge change of lifestyle cannot happen overnight. You know, and if it does, you're not going to keep it up. No. You're not going to keep it up because, like I like to tell students all the time, you will only ever do what you train yourself to do. Yeah. And you train yourself with small steps. Yeah. And I like that you said that. Start with baby steps.
And here's a way to like help you not even feel guilty about it. You putting your cardboard in the recycle bin, you filling up your recycle bin every week for like the rest of your life, it's not going to make that big of a dent. All it's really doing for you is showing you like that you're contributing and hopefully inspiring other people to do that. What's going to make a huge dent is when humongous companies start shifting their lane.
But they will only do that when the individuals start doing that.
Well, exactly. And so that's why you start to realize, like, okay, I'm going to, like, say you start off by saying, when I go to a restaurant, I'm not going to ask for a straw. Right. You know, if they give me a straw, I'm going to say, no, you can, like, have the straw back. or like just let them know.
Yeah.
Just start by doing that when you go out to eat. Say like, I don't want a straw.
Yeah.
If you usually buy straws for your kids at your house or for you, get those metal ones. They're reusable. You can like put them in the dishwasher. You can clean them out.
Kids like them better anyway. They're pretty cool. Yeah.
You can start with those things right there. Like, and maybe you're someone who, you know, you want to like get rid of your cardboard. Just start with your cereal boxes. Like, okay, every time we get any our cereal box, I'm just going to fold up our cereal box and we're going to donate that. Like, we're going to take that to the recycle place. Just start with one thing.
Or, you know, instead of buying prepackaged foods in the marketplace, go to the bulk section.
Yeah, exactly.
And you like, you know, pour your bulk cereal into a plastic container you bring with you. Something like that. You know, there's small things. I think you're totally right. It all starts with baby steps. And you can't think about it like, well, you can, but it's not realistic to think about like, oh, if I do this, I'm making the biggest impact. No, what you're doing is setting a standard for everyone else. All right, you're not trying to like literally save the planet. What you're trying to do is create a new standard of living for everyone. You know, you're creating a new idea for everyone, a new mindset, so that everybody sees it as like, oh, I want that mindset. I want that standard. You know, because you're trying to change the culture. That's the goal of everybody going green. Is you're trying to change the culture. You're not necessarily trying to do everything by yourself. You're trying to change other people's minds.
Right.
You know?
Well, even me just setting my recycling bin at the curb.
Yep.
So, like, if you live in an area where they do that, like I do, if you live in an area where you can take your recycling bin to the curb and they'll pick it up for you every week or every other week, that in itself, your neighbors don't see how much you put in.
Right.
But that in of itself will get your neighbors to look and be like, oh, they're recycling? Oh, they pick up the recycling? Like, I didn't know they did that. I would have been recycling this whole time if I would have known that. I don't even know where a recycling place is at.
Right.
Even if you have to take it somewhere, but you set the recycling bin outside your house next to your trash can, your neighbors will see, oh, they have a recycling bin. I wonder where they take it. And, you know, they might ask you. Like, every once in a while for Earth Day, post like, hey guys, let's do this. It's just like, you can do those simple things to show each other that recycling is a cool thing to do. And it's very helpful.
And it is, you know. And, you know, like my wife and I, we have reusable straws. We take them everywhere, right? We have water bottles, like plastic water bottles that we fill up, take it everywhere. Don't buy individual water bottles anymore because I think it's wasteful.
Ridiculous.
Yeah, so I fill up my water bottle from the sink and drink tap water. Tap water is good for you.
Yeah, get a Brita filter or something.
Yeah, tap water is good for you. If you didn't hear anything else in this whole podcast, is drink more tap water. It's good for you. Also, what's the deal with some of you not drinking water at all? Anyway, sorry, outside. Drink water. Yeah. Fill it up in a reusable water bottle. Put a metal straw in it. It looks cool. Everywhere we go, people are like, oh, that's such a cool straw. I'm like, yeah, we're trying not to use plastic straws. And I've never gotten a negative reaction to that. Everyone's like, oh, wow, I didn't realize, you know, like, yeah, that straw ends up in the landfill or in the ocean, you know, so if we use a reusable straw. I don't, you know, that's not, and that's helping to change the culture, you know, and it's great, you know, feel free to talk about it too. Don't like be annoying about it, but, you know.
Well, something that can stop people from doing things is like, a lot of people nowadays are doing those like, pickup orders from the stores. Like, so Katie and I, we do the Kroger click list.
Yeah.
And so we show up to Kroger and then they bring out 1 billion bags of our food. And usually it's like, sometimes it's one thing inside that plastic bag.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Like, it's really ridiculous. And it makes me want to just go inside and use all of our reusable bags every time now.
Yep.
And I'm getting to the point of doing that, but I'm also getting to the point of just saying, like, telling Kroger, it's like, hey,
don't put it in the
isn't
bag.
there a better way you could like do this?
Yeah.
What if, just like with milk cartons, it's like you used to like drop off milk cartons and then you left it outside on your porch and the milkman picked them back up and reused them or recycled them. It's like, give us some reusable bags and we bring them back the next time, and then you can keep reusing them. So it's like you start to realize that type of stuff too. Like, you don't have to change everything you do.
Yeah.
You can just start to see the imperfections in things, and maybe you can help Kroger or someplace adapt.
Yeah,
you know?
I mean, it's
like,
not,
just speak up.
It's not hard, exactly. And me and my wife use reusable shopping bags too, and go over time, and people like that. You know, I see a lot of people doing that now.
Yeah.
So, you know, we use the reusable straws, we use reusable shopping bags, we use reusable water bottles. And then we try to buy the bulk foods where we're not getting so many individually wrapped plastic things. And I don't feel like I should have to open a plastic box and then open another plastic box and then open, you know, like there's this why it's just I'll just open it up and get the food right away. You know, it's like it's more convenient for me first of all, and it's better for the earth. So might as well just put it in my own containers. So that's good. Also, one thing that I like about, because you're not just giving back to the wilderness. You know, it's also helping you as a person. Yeah. Not just that you're doing something good, but I'm going to make the argument that it helps you be more mindful in general. Yeah. Because, you know, like so many people are like, oh, I didn't even think about that. Well, now they are thinking about that. Right. And so that then inspires us, because I was this way, because I didn't think about it, you know, for years until I started getting into this, you know. And now it's made me more mindful as a person. Like, what is my impact, not just on the environment, but what is my impact in everyday life and things? Like, you know, because now I'm more mindful about what I say to people. Now I'm more mindful about what I think, you know, and what I do and the little actions I do. Because just by reconnecting with the wilderness and being more mindful about how my actions affect the environment, it's inspired me to be more mindful about how my actions affect other people now too. And so I feel like I'm trying to become a more mindful person in general. Yeah. And I think it's good for you to do stuff like that.
Yeah. There's along with the being mindful thing, you know, being mindful of the things that you do throughout your life. So there was a guy raising money for the documentary. It was called Give a Damn.
Right.
And it was all about, like, he and his other two buddies did this documentary where they backpacked from, like, Europe all the way down to Africa, living on $1.50 a day.
Wow.
Yeah, so every day, you know, if someone, like, they knew, like, was around, they would totally go to their house and stay there and like let them cook for them. Right. But it was just to show them, like, oh, we only have like so much to use. And so they were raising money for this documentary, raising money to give back to some other places. So they did this thing called Give a Dime every time. And every time you turned your water on in your house, you put a dime somewhere. You know, you put a dime in a jar. And so, like, you brush your teeth in the morning, you turn the water on, you put a dime in there. You turn the shower on, you put a dime in. You flush the toilet, you put a dime in.
Right.
Like, you turn on the garden hose, you do that. And it just goes to show you how much you turn on your water every day. And then all of a sudden, after a while, you start to realize, like, oh, I'm brushing my teeth. And as I'm brushing my teeth, I'm just letting the water run the whole time.
Yeah.
Or, like, while I'm doing the dishes, I'm just, like, letting it run, like, the entire time, full blast.
Right.
Like, while I'm sometimes not even, like, putting stuff under it. And so you start to be more mindful of, like, how you do that stuff in your life. And then along with all those other things, too. Like, the more you start paying attention to those micro things that you do, the more the macro comes into play.
Yeah. It's all baby steps.
It really is.
It is all baby steps.
And people get too worried about, oh, I need to go buy a Tesla. Oh my gosh, I need solar panels on my roof.
Right.
Like, no, you don't.
Yeah, this is the thing. Like, you're not going to install solar panels. You're not going to invest that much money if you're not invested enough to buy a reusable straw.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, it's baby steps.
Yeah, exactly. My wife and I said, we'll get solar panels whenever we, like, build our own house. If we ever build our own house, we'll get solar panels for it and, like, wire it for that. Instead of having to, like, buy a place and then rewire it all for solar panels. You know, it's just like, yeah, we're starting off with straws.
Yeah.
Like, we're starting there. We're starting by throwing away all of our recyclables.
Yep. And, you know, eventually we hope to have a pretty big lifestyle change. You know, it's taken us a little while.
Yeah.
You know, and that's fine. But as long as you're, you know, the only bad progress is no progress.
Right.
So as long as you're going forward, slowly, that's fine. You know, it starts off small. It starts with getting the reusable straw.
Yeah.
And then it starts with getting the reusable shopping bags. And then maybe not buying so many packaged things. And then, you know, using less water. Because we talk about the 3 R's, reduce, reuse, recycle. Man, only everybody does is recycle, right? Yeah. Recycle is the big one. We like to put stuff in the bin. That's easy, right? And now I feel like reuse is becoming bigger too, because now everybody's starting to reuse stuff and understand. But man, the hardest one by far is reduce.
Yeah.
The hardest one by far is reduce. Like you said, leaving the water running. When you realize how much water you use, well, maybe I could use less water and take shorter showers, you know?
Yeah.
Maybe I could, you know, reducing is hard. Maybe I could open the windows instead of turn the AC on. Yeah. You know, like it's hard to reduce.
If you're buying, like, say, like, your kids eat peanut butter and jelly, like, every day.
Yeah.
You know, and you have, like, the humongous jug of peanut butter.
Yeah.
Or something, and you're buying peanut butter, like, a big jug every week, and you're, like, throwing it in the recycle, you know, or throwing it in the trash. Maybe you'd realize, like, well, do they really need, like, 2 inches of peanut butter on their bread?
Right.
And it's like, what if, like, this is just good enough?
Yeah.
Like, what if this little bit's good enough for them? you start to realize that, like, oh, maybe I don't need like 3 cups of cereal in my bowl.
Yeah.
Maybe I just need a cup of cereal.
Exactly.
Maybe I just need a little bit of milk just to get everything wet.
Exactly. And you look at the problem, you think it's just so big, and I can never get to where I could solve this problem. And it's like, well, when you look at your starting point, look at the finish point, of course there's going to be a giant expanse in between the two. But it's like little baby steps of building the bridge.
Yeah.
It's one plank at a time, you build the bridge.
And what that's going to do for you is the more you do those baby steps, the more you get that just into your head, the more mindful you'll be. Then the more confident you'll feel about telling other people about it.
Yes.
The more confident you'll feel about making that phone call to your congressperson.
And the more comfortable you'll be with the small lifestyle changes.
Yeah.
So now they get bigger and bigger,
Yeah. Just starts with the straw.
Exactly. It starts with the straw. So I'm not telling you guys to, go out and live in the woods and be a sustenance farmer right now. But saying you can get there. you can get there slowly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. All right.
Well, I'm cool with that talk.
What time are we at right now? Let's see.
55.
Yeah. All right.
56.
Well, that is the Bear Burrito podcast for today. Talking about a relationship with nature. I hope that you were adequately inspired.
Yeah.
Go outside. Self-improve, and help the planet at the same time.
Yeah. Go smell some grass. Eat some grass.
Yes.
I don't know.
Dandelions are edible. You can eat dandelions. I'm not endorsing that, though, in case any of you have a dandelion allergy.
Yeah.
But
maybe instead of peanut butter and jelly, it's dandelions and jelly.
Wipe the pollen off first if you're going to eat it. Pollen tastes bad.
All right, guys. We will talk to you later.
Bye-bye.
That's a wrap.
That's a wrap.